time. And just for full disclosure, I wanted to let you know that we are recording this session so that others will have access to it after the conference. So just want to make sure everyone is aware that we are recording. This session is Reboot Your School Counseling Program with a Tiered Approach. We wanted to say Happy National School Counseling Week to everybody, of course. And we know that the theme of the conference was rebooting your program. And we know that many of us during this time may feel like it's about time for us to reboot something at this point in this crazy school year that we've had. Wanted to make sure that you can access this slide presentation. There's a bit.ly on the screen, bit.ly/reboot tiered, and then that will give you access to these slides. And Becky, if you could put the slide, the bit.ly in the chat, I would appreciate that so people can get it a little easier. My name is Whitney Triplett. I'm the Director of Professional Development for Hatching Results. I work with Dr. Trish Hatch and a team of amazing national trainers all around school counseling best practice. I'm a co-author of a couple school counseling textbooks. I had the privilege of being the 2018 Illinois School Counselor Advocate of the Year. I'm an inhabitant of Kumeyaay land, and so if you're interested in learning more about the land that you inhabit, we've added a link at the bottom right-hand corner of this slide as well, which has a great interactive map so you can learn more about those native cultures. I'm a former school counselor and district lead, and then with that, I'll turn it over to Becky to introduce herself as well. Becky Love, you're muted.
Thank you. Multitasking here, of course. Coming to you from Northern California, up here in Shasta County, I have the pleasure to lead the school counseling initiative up here in Shasta County. We've had tremendous results over the last 5 years, and I'm also very proud and honored to be the CASC Advocate of the Year for 2021. And let's see, I inhabit the Wintu land here in Shasta County. My area is in the Wintu land, although I am a Muskogee Creek Indian from Muskogee, Oklahoma. And I'm really happy to be here with you guys today. It was my pleasure to co-facilitate the Mission Possible that you're going to hear a little bit about here shortly. Whitney and I had the opportunity to work in San Diego virtually, of course. And it was a very enjoyable cohort. So thanks for having me today.
Yeah, thanks, Becky. So she mentioned the Mission Possible cohort. This was a PD cohort that was open to not just San Diego County school counselors and administrators, but really others in local areas as well. And so some of the content that we're going to be presenting today came out of that PD experience. So we're going to be giving it to you all as well. And then we have some guest speakers that are coming to us from my academy, Stacy Sevcik and Roger Brown, and they have an amazing flashlight presentation sharing the results of their school counseling program, specifically around individual learning plans. So we're really excited for you all to see their really crazy, amazing results and all the things that they put in place to really support students around graduation plans. The objectives of this session, by the end of this session, participants will be able to explain how a tiered approach to the delivery of school counseling supports can more equitably support students. You'll be able to conceptualize what a tiered approach might look like based on examples from local schools, and then assess your current program through the lens of MTMDSS. We're not going to be doing a lot of teaching around MTSS today. We're kind of assuming a prior level of knowledge, but we do have a slide in this presentation that if you're brand new to MTMDSS and you've never heard it before, we've hyperlinked some resources for you today, but we're going to walk you through a self-assessment activities. This is kind of like a working session. So get ready to pull up a Google Doc and start typing things in.
Right, and we want you to think of this opportunity as a reboot opportunity. Our Mission Possible was very NASA oriented, and so we're sticking with that and asking you to center yourself here and look forward to the things that we get to share with you. Some real live examples from practicing school counselors. And here we want to explain the multi-tiered, multi-domain system of supports very quickly, because like Whitney said, we're not going to go into it in depth, but As most of you in San Diego, or many of you in San Diego, are very familiar with the ASCA national model, MTMDSS is a framework for delivery. So that's why we have that highlighted there in the corner, in that one part of the triangle. This is where you have your tier 1 core curriculum, individual student planning, and district and school-wide activities in the tier 1. And tier 2, we use our data to facilitate small groups, sometimes individual counseling in tier 2, and also consultation and collaboration. And then tier 3, we have our short-term, very short-term counseling and referral to outside resources when necessary. So just making the connection for you here that MTMDSS is a part of the ASCA national model in the deliver component. And this slide, letting you know, if you haven't become familiar with the Trish Hatch draw video, we have this for you here, and that's the first one, a little 3-minute draw video. Fantastic resource to share with people outside of school counseling as well as school counselors. And then we have a full 2 hours with the amazing Terry Torzinski, the amazing Whitney Triplett, and I piped in there a little bit about the full understanding of the role of the school counselor. So we've linked those there for you, and 2 valuable resources right there.
All right, thank you, Becky Love. All right, so MTMDSS at a very basic level really does help to promote equity in your school and your school counseling program. So systematic rather than random delivery of services helps ensure that students are equitably served according to their demonstrated level of need. So effective systems like this enable all students to receive the tier 1 core curriculum instruction, individual student planning, and school-wide programs and activities. Students also receive supports according to their demonstrated or data-driven level of need. So you're taking a look at attendance and engagement, behavior, and achievement data to determine which students' needs are not being met through tier 1. And then you scoop or fishnet those kids up into tier 2 supports. Also by virtue of special population. So even if they don't have a demonstrated need, students who are part of a special population, like our foster youth, our homeless youth, are deserving automatically of additional supports, because we know through research that those students are more vulnerable and need additional supports, generally speaking. And then also by referral. But again, we don't want to ensure that all of our tier 2 supports are coming from only referrals, because we know they're so subjective. And so we really want to use data, which is why these pieces of the MTMDSS chart are circled in red. We want to use data to determine or qualify students for additional supports. And then it also enables school counselors to assess the services that are currently being delivered and to whom, to determine, like, are there certain groups in our buildings that are being advantaged or disadvantaged by the systems that we're using. So we're going to dive into that a little bit more. So this is a working session. We're going to complete this activity together, hopefully. So if you have the slides up, you can open up this worksheet. The bit.ly is on the screen. Becky, can you pop that into the chat box as well? It's MTMDSS worksheet. And this will force a Google Doc copy to open up that looks like what you see on the screen. So it's like your tiered chart, your triangle, your MTMDSS triangle, but you're able to type into it. And so what you'll be able to do is walk through with us to fill out this chart little by little. You can also do this later on as a post-conference activity with your department, or if you're a solo counselor at your school, this is a great activity for you to do with your administrator in one of your department or one of your agendaed meetings. So with tier 1, again, we're not going to be teaching this tier 1 piece today. If you want additional teaching, you can check out the links earlier in the presentation. But a couple of considerations as you're filling out your tier 1 of your worksheet. Be thinking about, what does every student deserve to receive from the school counseling program for this spring, for spring 2021. We know we're working within kind of weird circumstances, so don't think about in a perfect world. Think about, like, this spring, what is manageable for you to be able to deliver to students? What do they deserve to receive from the counseling program? And you can start to reboot your program around those needs. One thing where we see counselors getting stuck a lot of times is around just because it's available to all. Like you might say, well, I have drop-in hours and any student can come see me during my drop-in hours. Well, that's not necessarily tier 1 because not all students receive that. It's an opt-in kind of program. So just because it's available to all doesn't mean that all students actually receive it. So you want to look at your process or your participation data and see which student groups are most or least advantaged by any opt-in systems that you have or as needed systems. You'll start to notice that it might be like your high flyers, your students that need the most challenge, and your students that need the most support. Opposite ends of the spectrum are the ones that you're seeing the most with your as needed services. And so who does that leave out? Like the students in the middle, like the probably 90% of students in your school building. And so you want to employ your change agent skills in order to remove those types of systemic barriers so that all students not only have access to your tier 1 activities, but automatically receive them rather than them having to opt into something. That's just a consideration as you complete your tier 1 worksheet. Whoops, let's go back here. All right, so we're going to start with filling in your tier 1 section first. So if you have the worksheet open, and again, that bit.ly is in the chat box, you want to start completing just tier 1. So at the top, you'll see school counseling core curriculum lessons. This is where you're going to list the academic lesson or unit titles and which grade levels receive them. So this is the academic column. And then next, you're going to do the college and career lessons, and then finally social emotional lessons over in this section over here. Moving on down are your individual learning plans. Now remember, individual student planning are for all students, but individual learning plans, like the official system, usually we recommend that to students in grades 6 through 12. Some schools do more, like they go down to 4th or 3rd grade, and then some districts maybe start in 7th or 9th grade. But really 6 through 12 provides the most robust experience for students. So this is where you're gonna notate the pieces of the individual learning plan across the domain spectrum. There are academic pieces of an individual learning plan, like course selection, for example. There's college and career pieces and social emotional pieces too. And then finally, at the bottom, tier 1 are your school-wide programs and activities. So what academic, college, career, and social emotional programs and activities are available and are systematically delivered to all students in your building. And then just remember, if all students don't receive it, it's not truly tier 1. So it's just important consideration as you're filling this out. So we wanted to give you some examples of what this looks like, and we're going to move fast and talk fast. So when this is recorded, you can always come back later and pause it, and then use that for additional instruction if you want. So let's start with the classroom lessons on top. Here are some examples of what those classroom lesson titles could look like in the academic, college, career, and social emotional domains. And then let's look at ILPs next. So course selection, creating resumes, those are academic. College and career, having your ILP completed by every student and reviewed annually. At the elementary level, like Pause and Jobland and other things like that are really great platforms for students. Naviance, obviously. And then social emotional, joining extracurriculars. We know that when students feel connected to their school building, they're more likely to be successful in school. Also planning for transitioning to a university campus, community service, dual enrollment, all those things can greatly impact social emotional domain for individual learning plans. And then school-wide programs and activities, again, examples are here on the bottom. So your orientations, virtual attendance and engagement programs, those are all academic. Race to submit, virtual college tours, college signing days, our college and career, and then social emotional, like Mix It Up Day, Kindness Challenge, Red Ribbon Week, and the like. All right, so moving on to tier 2. So hopefully you're starting to jot down some of those tier 1 activities in your worksheet. So tier 2, there's lots of examples of tier 2 school counseling services that are provided. This slide is hyperlinked, so you can click on these links here to learn more about the difference between direct and indirect tier 2 services. It'll take you to kind of a one-pager for each. So this is where we're talking about small groups, post-discipline or suspension counseling, check-in, check-out, and then obviously our consultation and collaboration. With tier 2, it's important to think about the buckets of tier 2 student needs. So there's 3 big buckets. Number 1 are the deficiencies. And this is where counselors hang out a lot of times. We're pulling data to see which students are struggling with attendance, engagement, academically, or with behavior. But we also want to make sure that you consider the 2 additional buckets here. So students or families that are missing critical opportunities, like those that haven't enrolled in rigorous courses, families that haven't logged into their students' grade or college and career portal, students that haven't completed post-secondary applications. There is an opportunity that they're not taking advantage of. And so school counselors take the extra step to target them for that, to provide support so they can take advantage of those opportunities. And then finally, the last bucket are our student groups or special populations. So this is when a student group is disproportionately represented in our school data, whether it's attendance, behavior, or achievement. So this is our Black and our Brown students, our homeless, our youth, those in transitional living situations, foster youth, English learners, and other historically underrepresented or oppressed populations. So when we're thinking about tier 2, we want to think about all 3 of those buckets. And that when you hear the term closing the gap, if you're doing a closing the gap project or results report, it's these 2 buckets here, missed opportunities or student groups. That equates your closing the gap. So then now you can start thinking about your tier 2. And I know this is super fast. This is a great activity to really continue on after this workshop today. But if you move up the worksheet to tier 2, you'll see it split into 2 sections, direct and indirect services. And we've provided some examples here for you as well on the worksheet. So with direct, you're listing those direct supports being provided to students and to whom, which groups are receiving those interventions. And so academic, college, career, and social emotional. We want to think about all 3 domains. And then at the bottom part of tier 2, you're listing those indirect domain specific supports being provided. So let's look at some examples. So some direct academic examples include an academic skills group for students with 2 or more N's or U's. So that could be something for your littles, kindergarten through 5th grade. Check-in, check-out for students with 2 or more F's. Hope Rising curriculum, small group curriculum for students with 1 to 3 F's, and some other things listed there too. So you see, we're not just listing what the intervention is, we're also listing who's getting it, because that helps us to really focus on what populations are actually getting supports from us, regardless of our intent. College and career, we're talking about FAFSA workshops for special populations. Now, you may have FAFSA workshops for all of your students, and you might be saying, why is that not tier 1? Well, it's tier 1 if all students get it, but we know that special populations often need more. So these workshops are targeted specifically to those populations. So they're getting a little bit more than just what the tier 1 students, the students in tier 1 are getting. Reaching out to families that haven't logged into their students' college and career readiness portal, post-secondary planning. Yes, I can go to college. Those are all types of tier 2 interventions that are college and career. And then social emotional, we're talking about post-suspension conferences for every suspension, responsible decision-making small group for students with 2 or more behavior referrals, and then 1 day plus another for SARB attendance metrics. All right, so for our indirect tier 2, we're looking at referral to in-school tutoring. So the process of the referral is the service, that's the school counseling service. So we're not saying that the school counselors are tutoring students academically. That's not it at all. It's the referral process of it. And then systems change initiatives are tier 2 as well under indirect. So consultation with administrators about changing the AP enrollment process to be more inclusive. That is a tier 2 indirect. You're advocating on behalf of student populations to ensure there's more inclusive services being provided or systems. College and career indirect, like we saw lots of counselors this year create virtual college and career centers using their Bitmoji classrooms and things. That's a great tier 2 indirect service, or really even it could be tier 1 as well, depending on how you put it out there. Partnership meetings with college admissions reps, conducting PD for staff on college and career readiness. And then social emotional development of a virtual calming room, collaboration with social workers and psychologists to assess and streamline the tier 2 referral process. And then finally, we're going to move on up to the very top of your worksheet for tier 3. So these are your intensified short-term Hear me again, short term. This is not you all being written into IEPs for counseling services. No, 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 no. Inappropriate counseling duty there. This is talking about school counseling appropriate tier 3 services. So 6 to 8 weeks or so. And this is for very few students, 5 to 10%. So this is appropriate for students who continue to lack progress and exhibit barriers to learning after receiving tier 2, or they might go straight to tier 3 if they're experiencing a crisis situation. Maybe they transfer to the school with data that positions them as a high need for tier 3. Like if you have a senior transferring in with 10 credits, right? That would be very much a tier 3 situation. Those who are not appropriate for small groups, and then those that need referrals to outside resources. So just remember that tier 3 is not therapy. School counselors refer out when students are in need of more than just brief, short-term counseling or immediate crisis response. So when therapy is needed, they have to refer out by virtue of the fact that we're hired to be school counselors, not clinical therapists in our buildings. And then this is hyperlinked to all of our, or a lot of our profession resources that speak to that specifically. So these are some position statements on the school counselor and mental health, school counselor and identifying behaviors that are harmful and place students at risk, and the like. So on the top of your worksheet, this is where you're going to list the specific domain-specific supports being provided to students in tier 3. And again, it needs to be school counseling specific. So here are some examples. Academic tier 3 would be enrollment counseling for transfer in students with very few credits. Sometimes we do home visits with other support staff in our building and administrators around students that are not logging in to they're not attending or engaging in virtual learning. Referrals to alternative learning environments, providing parents information on requesting their student be evaluated for an IEP. So you'll notice this is not supports for students with IEPs, which is more kind of like almost a tier 4. A lot of experts across the nation almost argue that IEPs and 504s are outside of the MTMDS model or MTSS model. It's almost like a 4th tier. So the actual tier 3 support you're providing is information on how to refer, or information for that parent and family on how they can start to access those services. College and career tier 3 is so critically important. It's mostly for high school. I think there's probably very few tier 3 K-8 situations out there. I'd be interested in hearing if folks have some examples, but it tends to be high school only. So this is short-term counseling and advisement for seniors with rescinded college admission, for example. Support for seniors flagged for verification on the FAFSA. Support for seniors exhibiting signs of summer melt, or those that got accepted to college but don't have the means to get to campus. Like that's a tier 3 situation. And then social emotional tier 3 we're very familiar with. This is short-term counseling or crisis response for students with an emergent need, and referrals to mental health and other community agencies. So hopefully providing some of those examples gave you some ideas on how you can continue filling out your worksheet. This slide, I've broken the cardinal rule of all slide presentations and just put way too much text on here, but I just could not help myself because this is a post-conference reflection activity for you and your team. And again, if you're a solo counselor, your team is your administrator. So it would be great to sit down if you print this presentation out, and you can use this slide to guide your conversations. Once you have your completed worksheet done, you've filled it out, then you sit down and start assessing it. What are our strengths? How can we build on these strengths in all of our tiers? Are any of the domains more robust than others? We see a lot of times high school, college career is super robust. Social emotional is kind of and then it's flip-flopped at the elementary level. Way more social emotional elementary and much fewer college and career. Now, that is developmentally appropriate in some way, but we still want to ensure that all school counselors K-12 are providing equitable instruction within the 3 domains. Are any of your tier 1 supports opt-in? And if so, how can you move to a more equitable delivery approach? How are your tier 1 and 2 programs aligned to your district's LCAP? How are families engaged? There's lots of really good discussion questions here that you can use after the conference. All right, Becky Love.
Okay, so now we've got all these ideas about our tier 1 work, our tier 2 work, and our tier 3 short term. crisis counseling, and you have activities in mind. So we want to encourage you to share your results. And as the saying goes there, this is a great way to reboot your program. When you do a dive into your data, when you look at the work that you've been doing and you see your results, you really are going to want to share those results. So if you put it in a frame of what did you do, why did you do it, and how are students different as a result of it? So those are the three things that build self-efficacy for your program, and for you as a school counselor. So Whitney's going to animate us through this slide because there's so much important notes here to keep you motivated. But like I said, the self-efficacy and effectiveness, you're broadening everyone's understanding of the role of a school counselor. And you know, when you're trying to get into the classroom to teach a lesson, when you share the results of that lesson, I just can't tell you there's nothing more empowering to support you getting back into those classrooms. But anyway, sharing your results connects the school program to the school's goals and district LCAP's priorities, builds political influence and social capital. You are seen as a leader. You are seen as a professional that knows the data on your students. It increases buy-in. Like I said, teachers are definitely more open to having school counselors teach in their classroom when they see the results. Increases understanding of the purpose of the school program. It widens your support of collaborators. And on that, I would say, you know, when you're teaching in a classroom, those teachers are great mentors for us to sharpen our skills or improve our craft as a teacher. So lean into those teachers as collaborators and also spread the word about what actually works, and what doesn't. And you can really talk, if you're sharing tier 2 information, you can share like, well, these students participated in the intervention and they had this growth, but these students declined the intervention and their numbers stayed the same or remained consistent. So anyway, sharing your results. I can't encourage you more to do that.
All right, so we actually are going to have a couple of guest presenters to show you how to put some of this together. First, we're going to have My Academy roll through their flashlight presentation. And I'm so excited that we also have JCCS, who's on here as well, and has their completed MTMDSS chart, exactly the same as your worksheet that they've completed. And they'll be able to walk you through what they've been able to put together too. So I'm really excited. I'm going to tag in Stacy and Roger to introduce themselves, and I'm going to give them the mic.
Thanks, Whitney. It's been a pleasure working with you, and we really enjoyed our experience at Hatching Results, and we're happy that we were invited here. So we are counselors at My Academy, and it's a non-classroom based public charter school serving TK through 12, and we have a At Promise pathway as well for young adults 18 to 24. We serve students in San Diego, Riverside, Imperial, and Orange counties. My name is Stacy Sebchuk, and I've been working at the school since about September in a part-time capacity. I have over 20 years of experience in education, counseling, and teaching at various levels. And my predecessor, Roger, this is his third year. He's a retired Carlsbad Unified counselor, and he has been at My Academy for the last 3 years as their part-time counselor. And so they were able to put some more money towards the counselor. So I get to be the counselor now, but he has been mentoring me. So he's been a great resource, and he worked on helping the graduation rate at the school. And so he put together this wonderful presentation that he's going to show you.
Thank you, Stacy.
Roger, I'm happy to drive and forward your slides if you'd like.
Let me just see if I can make this work. No. Why don't I let you do the driving?
All right, just tell me when you want me to advance.
Got to get back
You
to
wanna
where.
change the screen there, Whitney?
Yes, ma'am. All right, can you guys see my screen?
We're not seeing the slide deck yet.
All righty, let me try it again.
I think Roger, I think Roger needs to stop sharing.
I'm trying to.
Oh, I gotcha. How about now? Can you see it now?
Not yet.
Unfortunately, I'm in the endless color loop wheel here. I apologize.
Let's see. There we go. Somebody got that up. There we go.
Got it? Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Not me
Right.
just yet. Must be an issue with my computer, so I apologize again. Thank you, colleagues in attendance, for some patience with this technical difficulty.
Did we lose Roger? Are you there?
I think I'm here, but my screen has just gone black on me here.
Oh, no worries. Hey, how about, do we want to go over to JCCS and give you time to get your slides back up? Does that work?
Okay, that sounds good.
Let's do that. Don't you just love technology? All right, Jessica, if you want to share your screen, then you can absolutely pop your stuff up.
Yeah, we are ready to rock and roll. Hi, everybody. My name is Jessica Nunez, school counselor for JCCS. It is my first year as head counselor. Something I had wanted to step up to the plate to do, and finally kind of jumped in the deep end with the help of some coworkers saying, like, just go for it, Jess. And so I was really grateful for the learning journey that we were able to come together with for Mission Possible. I am total fangirling over here. Look at this. Got the textbooks, like it's exactly what I needed to feel very confident to give our JCCS counseling department a reboot. And so that is what I would like to share with all my compañeros out there. Actually, I pressed the wrong button, my bad. All right, here we go. The yellow just calls my name and I go for yellow. Okay, so JCCS counseling department, this is just a quick recap of our work together from the Mission Possible journey. I mean, everything Whitney showed right now, I'm impressed because this took like November to January. You know, and we were able to digest it very slowly. So I definitely recommend going back and looking through the PowerPoint. But here's our journey through it. It does look a little different. I did request to go second on purpose because, you know, it's alternative school, right? We do things a little different and things look a little different. So I wanted the crowd to get like the traditional version first, but it is what it is. So this is a result of our Mission Possible work together. It was 7 of us, 2 classified, 1 admin, and 4 counselors representing both our court side and our community side. And over 12 sessions, like we met 12 times. And I'm very proud of that milestone, as you will see later in our 1-pager, because we had to be very intentional and make that like counselor sacrifice of focusing on ourselves and our program. And things had to wait. So I'm proud of Dawn is on this team on the call right now. And so is Jess Pena and Gabby, and there was a lot of us. But 3 of them were the lunches and 3 of them were the debriefs. And then the other 6 we tacked on because we're very serious about the work we wanted to do together under the guidance of Whitney and Becky, of course. I don't have traditional perception and, you know, all the data that you're going to see in Roger's presentation has it as it should be. But, you know, here's our alternative one. We were able to get some new attitudes or refresh the attitude, like believing in the importance of our school counseling curriculum, believing that all students deserve it, right? Because we know they do, especially our alternative school students. Like we feel like tier 1, 2, and 3, we got to come up with the 4, 5, and 6. And so, but we believe that the school counseling curriculum is a perfect way to get started. And honestly believe that us as counselors can make that happen. Like we are in the driver's seat. So the skill that we learned in our journey was that MTMDSS chart and knowledge about it. So I would like to share that with you. And again, just spoiler alert, it looks different because since we are 2 families in one, we are the court side of our program, right? Students who are currently incarcerated. And then we have the community side of our program. And so there we go, got the logo there. This is what a filled out multi-tiered, multi-domain system of support chart looks like. So exactly what Whitney just showed. And on the other side, this is Whitney's feedback on what we want to do next. So very appreciative again of you two ladies, Becky and Whitney, because you're that mentor that we try to be for for the students that we serve. So I appreciate your help. Yeah, heart. And so here is the last one pager. So debrief number 3. So our MTMDSS chart was our launch session number 1 and launch session number 2 put together. And the last one was challenge yourself by creating a one-pager, a flashlight presentation that you'll see from Roger. And here's our one-pager that I would like to share. Oh, there we go. So this is our journey. For those of you who are wondering, if there is ever a second Mission Possible series, I highly recommend. They did not pay me to say this, but I highly recommend that you guys sign up for it, because this is where the work has helped us. This is where the journey took us, and it's a little map on purpose. So there you can see our milestones. Number 1, we made time to reflect on our work as counselors, with again the guidance of like Whitney's guiding questions and the charts and the PowerPoints. Like we made time for that, and I'm very proud of that first milestone. And I know Jess's and Gabby and Shar and everyone on JCCS team that's on here right now. And then number 2, we created our chart, which I just showed you. It was a paradigm refresh that we needed, because we step on each other's toes, revolving door and court and community, and there's a lot of things that comes along with managing 2 programs inside of one that run very differently. So it definitely gave us a paradigm refresh in that we were able to find like something in common, a commonality. Like everything we do can be put into this MTMDSS chart, no matter what kid you are in North County, South County, East County, juvenile hall, it doesn't matter. Milestone 3, we're not there yet. It is continuing the work of launch project number 1 and launch number 2, specifically getting together with our stakeholders, as we have many in JCCS, lots of partner programs, lots of support staff other than counselors who do the work to help students develop in those 3 domains. Ultimate goal, start off summer strong. I know you guys are cheering for JCCS. Your students are our students are your students, right? If we can send them back to your school districts, having gone through, having been beneficiaries of our Mission Possible goals that came out, which is starting off summer strong. And what that means, if you notice at the bottom, is the coming soon. This is a work we want to take. And I can't see it because it just blurred out on me, but I know what it is. 1, we want to continue to align our programs, our push-ins and activities around quarterly themes, monthly newsletters that go out to parents and students. We want to, number 2, adopt a core district approved core counseling curriculum, which is MTSS tier level 1, and then a newsletter, obviously. So not only number 1, get it together, but number 3, promote it. And today was a good practice of that. And I know Roger's waiting for his turn, so I won't take up any more time, but we got to take that extra step outside of our comfort zone and talk about the great work that we do as counselors, because we do rock. So happy School Counselor Week, everybody.
Thank you, Jessica and JCCS team. You guys are so amazing. I'm just very impressed and overwhelmed and all the kind words. Thank you all so much for sharing your journey. And I did want to comment when you showed your chart and all my feedback on the side. Just wanted to normalize too, because Becky and I were talking about this earlier today, that even on our internal team, like we have these conversations all the time and debate, does this go here? Does it go on tier 2? Does it really make sense here? Or we go and look at our data, and I'll call Trish and I'm like, hey, can you double check my math on this? And that's just how professionals work. So it doesn't have to be perfect. I think this disease of perfectionism and I want it to be perfect before I present, like we got to get over that, because we're all counselors.
Well said.
We're all on the same team. We're in it together. So thank you all very much for presenting.
Well done, Jessica and team. Excellent work.
All right, My Academy. You guys ready to rock? And do you want me to share my screen, or do you all want to share yours?
I'm looking for Roger. I don't know if he's on here now.
I think he probably went out to try to reboot. Isn't that funny? To reboot to get squared away there, but I don't see him. So I'm wondering if Stacy could.
Yeah, I'm not going to do justice to it, but yes, I will. I will definitely step in here.
Oh, I see Roger now.
Is he
I see
back?
Roger. Perfect timing.
Sorry about that.
Man, this is just our life lately. Like, this is it. What I like about this time, at least, like a silver lining, is that we've learned to be vulnerable with one another in technology. And we've just really wrapped around one another and given each other grace and patience and understanding. And that's what we do as school counselors, right?
Absolutely.
No matter how many times you think you practice and you're ready to go, something happens and you just got to roll with it.
Don't I know?
Stacy, you can, Stacy, thank you for your introduction. And Whitney, yes, go ahead and be the driver of the slides. This was a culminating activity from our time spent with the Hatching Results team and our colleagues at a professional development. And it illustrates some results we were able to obtain in the academic domain. So when we began our work, counseling work in the fall of 2018 at my academy, we chose as our primary goal to increase the graduation rate by 100% each year, from a baseline of 14% up to 28% by June of 2019, and then on to 56% by June of 2020. Next slide, please. So we chose this SMART goal because then and now we are a school that serves students who are at high risk for not graduating. We were starting with a baseline graduation rate of 14%. In the 2017-18 school year, there was no counselor position as yet. And also one of our important LCAP goals was ensuring that all students were on track for graduation. Next. And we knew from research that an important best practice for decreasing dropout rates and improving graduation rates was the close monitoring of academic progress of all students and intervening early when problems arose. Next, please. So following the ASCA model, within the academic domain, we chose to endeavor to address this mindset and these two behaviors that we believed would support our students achieving graduation. In addition, relevant to our work was the California School Counseling State Standard of creating educational plans for all students. And as mentioned before, our LCAP goal of ensuring that all students were on track for graduation. So in an effort to improve graduation rates, we instituted a Tier 1 intervention for all of our students. In the fall of 2018, when the school counselor came on, we ensured that all continuing students and our newly enrolling high school students would receive individual academic planning that included these three elements you see here. A transcript graduation status review that included, could you back a bit? That included being updated each semester, a yearly updated graduation course plan, also known as four-year plans, that included an expected graduation date, and finally, the close monitoring and early intervention of students in partnership with their one-to-one teachers. Because we urgently needed to immediately improve our students' academic progress, no data was collected about students' attitudes, knowledge, and skills. However, student and teacher feedback indicated that students, having had the academic planning, gained confidence in their ability to graduate and became more motivated to complete their coursework and earn credits. As this graph illustrates, we far exceeded our SMART goal by raising our graduation rate from 14% to 79% in just 2 years. In the first year, we increased to 54% when our goal was 28%. And then we reached 79% in the second year when our goal was 56%. When we disaggregated our data by our three largest student groups, we found an additional positive effect of our academic counseling. So from the 2019 to 20 school years, the graduation gap between our socioeconomically disadvantaged students and our white students decreased from 15% to 5%, an overall reduction of 68%. Similarly, for the graduation gap between our Hispanic and white students, it decreased from 18% to about 5%, an 82% overall reduction.
I'm sorry, I have to jump in here. Are y'all seeing this data? This is like legit awesome data. This is crazy, crazy impact just because of one simple practice that school counselors put in place. Just wanted to like throw some energy into this slide that like, this is amazing work, My Academy.
Thank you for that shout out. Well, in sum, we found that our individual academic planning for all students rapidly and powerfully contributed to higher graduation rates and diminished the graduation gap between our three largest student groups. It also appeared that we positively affected student attitudes towards their ability to graduate and their motivation to do the work to get there. Without question, our students' success with the support of our academic counseling means simply that we just need to keep doing what works. What we learned in the process was that timely and effective academic information and close monitoring greatly helped all of our students toward graduation. We also found that our teachers enjoyed this academic information because they found it useful in supporting and guiding their students' academic achievement. A limitation of our individual academic planning program was that because the counselor was only a time-limited hourly position, we did not include students directly in the academic planning. That information was channeled through their one-to-one teachers. Also, during this time, the graduation rates were significantly impacted and improved by the fact that we were able to qualify as an alternative or DAS school because we serve students that are at high risk to graduate. One of the things that we've already started as next steps, and you've met her, it's Stacy. She's now our half-time counselor position thanks to the support of our great administrators. So with her time and expertise, she'll now be in a position to directly involve students and families in the individualized academic planning and monitoring process. So thank you for your participation in this session this afternoon, my colleagues. We're indebted very much to our administrators, Dawn and Bill, and to our dedicated teachers for their vital roles in the graduation of our students. It was truly a collaborative project and obviously something that we're very proud of. Back to you, Whitney.
All right, round of applause for My Academy. Not only do they have all this great, really great intervention and data, but they also had the courage to present today their whole flashlight presentation. And I'm just so excited for My Academy and JCCS for showing how they're applying these frameworks and these theories to pandemic schooling right now. It really is a fantastic way to adapt MTSS, MTMDSS, the ASCA model to changing circumstances. Really excited about about what they've been able to accomplish during these challenging times. So we wanted to take a few minutes and end a little bit early so that folks in the audience could ask questions. If you have questions about the content from the presentation, if you have questions about how JCCS and My Academy, what their experiences were like doing this, we'd love to take some of those questions at this time. You can either use the chat box or you can unmute. And then while you're listening, if you could please fill out the evaluation that's on the screen, School Counselor Khan leadership would be very happy about that. Very appreciative. Becky, there was a question to please post the link to the slides in the chat box again. If you could please do that, as well as the eval link. Let me jump off with one question first. For My Academy, how long did it take you all to create your flashlight presentation, and what was your experience of putting that together? Oh, you're muted.
I said, I'm sorry, you were addressing us. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no worries. I was just asking for the flashlight presentation, how long did it take you to put that together? And what was your experience of putting that flashlight together? Was this the first time you've ever done a flashlight? And what was that experience like?
No, it is not the first time, to start with the last question first. However, I found it very useful to use the templates that were provided us through the Hatching Results team. So I more or less cookbooked it and felt like it was, you know, a great concept to work from. And it was awesome to be able to go into our California school dashboard and mine this data and make it real. We knew that we had been making great strides, but to see it in numbers and data just was really gratifying. So it did take a little bit of time because I was trying to do something that was new in the way of a presentation, but nothing that's too difficult for practicing school counselors, that's for sure.
Yeah, one of the things that I often found when I was a counselor, at first I started doing flashlights for compliance because I went to a training with Trish, and I was a brand new baby newborn counselor at the time, and she didn't know who I was, but I went and she was like, we're supposed to be doing flashlights. So I'm like, okay, well, I need to go do a flashlight. So I was doing it because it was kind of compliance driven and my district was requiring it too. After I did it the first time or two, it was more intrinsic because what I learned is the process of putting the flashlight together, put your head in the data in a very deeper level. You start really assessing whether what you did was impactful, whether students learned what you wanted them to learn. And so that helps to improve your professional practice. So it doesn't become about compliance anymore. And I just started doing flashlights on a monthly or quarterly basis, just as my practice as a counselor, because I could see if what I was doing was actually helping. And I realized that the process of presenting the results data, when you're teaching something, you learn it at such a higher level than when you just do it yourself. And so like that teaching it to, whether it's school staff, or sometimes I would do flashlights for my students or for the school community, the school board, or whatever, it helps you to really own your program on a different level entirely. So you become like much more of a leader in school counseling. And so that's one of the things that I personally got out of doing flashlight presentations. Other questions?
I would like to add, Whitney, that one of my proud moments in doing a flashlight is that you have the opportunity, it's in the template, to share what you learned and what you would do differently next time. And I think that when you're presenting to your staff and school board members, when you own like, oh, this is an area for growth and we intend and we have plans to improve this in the future, it really ups your credibility and political and social capital, to use those words.
I just had a question in the chat box. What is a flashlight presentation? Thank you so much for asking that. Again, we're assuming prior knowledge, so thank you for asking what a flashlight is. Becky, if you can find, while I'm talking about it, can you find the link to the template in the drive, the Google slide template, and stick it in the chat box? They'll have access to that. A flashlight presentation was designed by Dr. Trish Hatch, I don't know, 20 years ago. It was one of the ways that she wanted to share her results of her counseling program, and that's how she was training other counselors to share their program results. So we know that ASCA has their results reports template, and that's great. That's one way you can share results. You can also use a flashlight presentation, which is it's either a PowerPoint or a Google slide or a Prezi, some kind of presentation that you can deliver in 6 to 8 minutes. It's short and sweet. It's just basically shining a light on one thing that you did in your counseling program and looking at the outcome. So it's not all of your counseling program. It's one thing you did, whether it was a lesson that you delivered or maybe a small group, some kind of intervention, but one thing. So you start with, what was your baseline data? Why did you want to address it? Like your rationale. What did you do? And then what were the outcomes of that? What did students believe, know, or were they able to do as a result of your activity? And then what kind of impact did that have on outcome data, like your attendance, behavior, and achievement? So there is a template that you can use that makes it really easy. All you do is pop in your school logos and pop in your data and you're good to go. So that's what Becky is putting in the chat box now. So anybody can use a Flashlight presentation template to share results with their school community. I wouldn't always present it live. Sometimes I just like shared the presentation with teachers like via email, or I would print it and put it in our boxes or something. So you don't have to physically present it every time, but doing so, we would say that counselors, if you can do that at least once a year, it'll really help to build legitimacy for the counseling program in your building. You can also do highlight reels, which is something Becky loves doing, and it's more comprehensive, like more about your counseling program, not just shining light on one thing. And then one of my personal favorites are one-pagers. I like just creating a one-page graphic, like really pretty to look at document that shows the results, because that way you don't have to present it. You can just kind of like give it, like email it to folks or post it on a website and those kinds of things. So lots of ways to share results, and National School Counseling Week is the best time to do it, because we know that National School Counseling Week wasn't necessarily designed to celebrate counselors. That's part of it, but it was designed as a vehicle for us to educate others about what we do, because we're still part of an illegitimate profession. It's not as illegitimate as it was, but we still have to train people on what it is that we do and our appropriate role and responsibility. Sharing results is the best way to do that. So thank you for asking that question. Let's see, I think we might have time for one more. All right, well, with that, I think we'll go ahead and close and get you all out of here on time so that you'll be able to make it to your next obligation. So again, I want to especially thank JCCS and my academy for their courage and vulnerability and amazing results and hard work over the last few months, especially in the middle of a really difficult year. So if you all can join me in just thanking them for their time, and thank you all, everybody on this Zoom as well, for everything that you're doing to support students and families. We appreciate you. Have a wonderful school counseling week.